Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. You guys made me do this video. I don't really even want to do this video, but because I keep getting the questions about how on earth I could believe that Mystery Babylon is Rome. This video should put this to rest. If it doesn't for you, then I can't help you anymore on this topic. But I'm going to go through these 58 reasons why Mystery Babylon is Rome. What we're going to end up doing really is going verse by verse in Revelation 17 and 18, the passage about Mystery Babylon, the whore that rides the beast. And I'll give you every single verse almost and how it relates exactly to prophecies about Babylon. So we're just going to go verse by verse, and I'll show you. And just note this too. If you don't agree with this, you need to watch through this. You need to watch every reason. Some reasons you won't like as much as others. Some reasons you will scoff. But there are others you can't really argue with. There's a lot here, and it needs to be evaluated if you're serious about studying prophecy. Because the Mystery Babylon idea, concept, is one that almost everyone gets wrong. And it's not hard to see why. But when we examine the text thoroughly, there's at least 58 reasons why Mystery Babylon is Rome. All right, so to get started, we're going to go straight to Revelation chapter 17 and just start reading. Verse 1 of chapter 17, "And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show to thee the judgment of the great whore that sits on many waters." The first reason has to do with the phrase, the great whore. Babylon is seen as a woman, and we can see this if we go to Psalm 137, verse 8. Psalm 137, 8 says, "O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewards you as you have served us." So, confirming that Babylon, in the Old Testament prophecies, was seen as a woman. Number two reason, also the phrase, the great whore. And we can see in Ezekiel chapter 23, you can see in verse 17 that the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love and defiled her with their whoredom. She was polluted with them and her mind alienated from them. The she is the sister Aholibah, and this is a representation of the Jews. So in this verse, the Babylonians come into Israel and pollute her with whoredom. Reason number three, the great whore, Mystery Babylon, sits on many waters. And we can see that there is the one that dwells upon many waters is Babylon in Jeremiah. And that's in Jeremiah 51, verse 13, which says, "O that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come." And we can see that this whole passage is about Babylon. So the context is that thou that dwellest upon many waters is Babylon. Reason number four, also because of the phrase that sits upon many waters. The reality is that Rome itself sits on many waters. It is geographically bordered with water on every side, while Jerusalem is not. Jerusalem is encased in land. And please note in the Bible, throughout the Bible, the usage of the words and phrase many waters. It often is referring to this kind of a geographical idea instead of simply the symbolic representation of waters being people. So moving on to verse 2 in chapter 17. It says, "With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication." So reason number 5, this phrase, the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Fornication, Babylon is specifically related to whoredom in Ezekiel 23:17. Right here, as we looked at before. In this passage, as we said before, Babylon commits whoredom with both Israel and Samaria. Reason number 6. The phrase, made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Jeremiah says that Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. This is in Jeremiah 51, verse 7. Now on to Revelation 17, verse 3. "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So reason number 7, the idea of the wilderness. John the Apostle, who wrote Revelation, is carried to the wilderness to see Babylon the whore. Jerusalem does not exist in the wilderness. But Babylon was supposed to have been made a wilderness by God in the prophets. This is in Isaiah 43, 14 through 22, Jeremiah 50, 9 through 13, and Jeremiah 51, 42 through 43, as well as Ezekiel chapter 19. Reason number 8, in regards to the phrase, a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. Jerusalem, in history, in the first century, did not ride the beast. The beast is the principality behind Rome. Most of us would agree with this based on what's in the book of Revelation. But Jerusalem does not ride Rome. Pompey, for just a small history lesson, Pompey conquered Jerusalem in 63 BC. Then, in 19 AD, Tiberius expelled all the Jews from Italy. Then, during the Alexandrian riots of 38 AD, thousands of Jews were slaughtered by Roman citizens. Then Claudius expelled all the Jews from Rome in 50 AD, and many skirmishes between Rome and the Jewish zealots in the early 1st century resulted in the deaths of thousands more Jews. Rome put up with the Jews. They tolerated them. The Jews didn't ride Rome in any sense. And in many cases, Rome battled against the Jews, including in 70 AD. Babylon the whore, or the principality of Babylon, rides the beast, which is Rome, and is coexistent with Rome. Revelation 17, verse 4, "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication." Reason number 9. The phrase arrayed in purple, scarlet, decked with gold, precious stones, and pearls. Purple and scarlet, red and crimson, gold, stones, and pearls are not specific to Israel in the Bible or in any other writing. Purple, linen, gold, and scarlet, these are signs of wealth for any nation. This is referenced in many, many references of the Bible, including Exodus 28, 2 Chronicles 2:14, Jeremiah 10:19, Ezekiel 27:7, verse 16 and 22, and Daniel 11:38, just for starters. Revelation 17, verse 5. "Upon her head was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, the abomination of the earth." Reason number 10. Again, this phrase, the golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness. Jeremiah, in Jeremiah 51:7, as we've talked about, says, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. Reason number 11, Babylon the Great. The whore is called Babylon. This seems like a obvious thing, but the reality is that the beast, the whore, is called Babylon. The idea that we take that idea and change it to some other city is on us. We bring that to the text. The text tells us it's Babylon. So the whore being called Babylon immediately should make us think this is not Jerusalem. Revelation 17:6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Reason number 12. The blood of the saints. The saints in this context are the first century Christians. Rome killed thousands of Christians. The Jews killed only a few. Some Christians actually lived peacefully inside Jerusalem with the Jews before 70 AD. Reason number 13. Again, with the phrase, the blood of the saints. This phrase is only otherwise used in Revelation 16, verse 6. And it's said this way, quote, they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, unquote. The context for they here is from verse 2 of chapter 16, and it's talking about the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. This would include Jews and Gentiles who worshipped the pagan gods of Rome under the sway of the beast. So we see that this reference and the way this phrase is used in Revelation in another spot is not talking about Jerusalem or the Jews specifically. Reason 14. The phrase, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. The martyrs of Jesus here refer to the Christians who were killed for their testimony of Christ. Rome killed thousands of Christians. The Jews killed very few. Revelation 17, verse 9. We're going to skip Revelation 17:7. It doesn't show us any more information about the woman, about the whore or Babylon. It's talking about the beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns. Verse 8 is similar. It's talking about the beast. And then we come to verse 9. And here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. Reason 15. This phrase about the 7 heads being 7 mountains, Rome is called the city on 7 hills and has been throughout history. It even had an ancient festival called Septimontium that was dedicated to the peoples of the 7 hills in Rome, a pagan festival. And again, Jerusalem nor the Jews sit on Rome, but the pagan idols and gods of Rome do sit on those 7 hills in Rome. And this information about the 7 hills of Rome and Rome being the city of 7 hills is talked about hundreds of years before Christ by Cicero and Virgil. And there's other authors that talk about this. Samuel Ball Planter, Robert E.A. Palmer, and Mary Beard. Revelation 17:10 says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short space or time. Reason 16. This phrase here, 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. This is a very obvious reference to Rome, but for those who don't know, the 7 kings here are Julius, Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius. Those are the 5 fallen. The one that is Nero, and the one that has not yet come is Galba. These are all emperors of Rome. The whore rides Rome. Revelation 17:11. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seven, and goes into perdition. The eighth here, again, is a reference to the next emperor in line after Galba, and that is Otho. All of these are connected to the beast, and all are from Rome, on which the whore of Babylon rides. Revelation 17:12 mostly talks more about the beasts, talking about the 10 horns. It talks about the 10 horns that are 10 kings. They have one mind and give their power to the beast. These are principality angels. But moving on to 14, they are going to make war with Christ, the Lamb. And then we'll move to verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou saw, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So reason number 18. The waters which you saw. Jerusalem and or the Jews did not sit on people, multitudes, nations, and languages. However, Rome did. It ruled all nations at the time of the writing of this vision. All nations, all peoples, all languages. The Jews, in contrast, had already now come out of the pagan nations and were living in mostly Jerusalem. Revelation 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Reason 19. The 10 principalities that were given power with the beast for an hour, as it said in the previous verses, would then turn on Babylon, or Rome, and destroy her. Rome was destroyed over the next few centuries with plague after plague by God. This includes earthquakes, fires, poisonings, natural disasters, volcanic eruptions, and pandemics of disease. Reason number 20. The phrase about making the whore desolate and naked. Jeremiah literally says that God will make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant in Jeremiah 51:29 and 51:62. Revelation 17:17 doesn't give any more information on Babylon or the whore. Then verse 18, and the woman which thou sawest is the great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. Reason 21. Did Jerusalem reign over the kings of the earth? No, it did not. Did Rome? Yes, Rome did. Reason 22. Isaiah calls Babylon the glory of kingdoms and the golden city. The ruler of Babylon was called he that ruled the nations in anger. Isaiah 13:19 and Isaiah 14:4 and 6. Now moving to the next chapter of Revelation, chapter 18. Verse 1 doesn't speak of Babylon, so let's move to 18, verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Reason 23. This phrase, Babylon the great is fallen, Jeremiah says that Babylon, quote, is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Jeremiah 51, verse 8. Reason number 24. This phrase, is fallen, quote unquote, is quoted from Isaiah about Babylon. This is in Isaiah chapter 21, verse 9. Reason 25. Again, this phrase, Babylon is fallen. In Revelation 14, the same phrase is used with no indication at all that it is anything other than Babylon itself. It says, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. That's in Revelation 14, verse 8. Reason number 26. This part about becoming the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Isaiah echoes this statement and says, quote, "Wild beasts of the desert shall lie there. Owls shall dwell there. Beasts, dragons in their pleasant palaces." End quote. This is in Isaiah 13, verses 21 and 22. Reason number 27. Again, this same phrase, Jeremiah echoes this statement and says, quote, "Wild beasts of the desert, with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein." Jeremiah 50, verse 39. Revelation 18, verse 3, "For all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." This phrase, that all the nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication, we've already gone over in verse 2 of chapter 17, that Babylon is referred to as the whore in Ezekiel 23, and that Jeremiah 51 says that Babylon is a golden cup in the Lord's hand that has made the earth drunk, that the nations have drunk of her wine. Reason number 29. Again, about this phrase that all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The question should be, did Jerusalem or the Jews actually fornicate with all the nations? No. The answer is no. But Rome did. Reason number 30. In this verse where it says, "The merchants of the earth waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." Jerusalem did not produce enough delicacies to provide for the merchants of the land to become rich. But again, Rome did. Revelation 18, verse 4, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." Reason number 31. The phrase, "come out of her, my people." How can the Jews come out of Jerusalem? God would never have said this, and he never did say this in any prophecy. They can, however, come out of pagan Rome or Babylon. Reason number 32. Again, the phrase, "come out of her, my people, that ye not be partakers in her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." Jeremiah says of God's people in Babylon, quote, "My people, go ye out of the midst of her, and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord." Jeremiah 51, 45. Revelation 18, verse 5, "For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities." Reason number 33. This phrase, "her sins have reached unto heaven," Jeremiah says of Babylon, quote, "her judgment reaches unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies." That's in Jeremiah 51, verse 9. Reason number 34. The phrase, "God hath remembered her iniquities." Ezekiel says of the ruler of Babylon, quote, "Ye have made your iniquity to be remembered. Ye shall be taken with the hand." This is in Ezekiel 21, verse 24. Revelation 18, verse 6 says, "Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double." Reason number 35. The phrase, reward her even as she rewarded you. David in the Psalms says of Babylon, quote, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. This is in Psalm 137, verse 8. Reason number 36. The same phrase, reward her even as she rewarded you. In Jeremiah, he says of Babylon, recompense her according to her work. That's in Jeremiah 50, verse 29. Reason number 37. Again, the same phrase. Ezekiel says of the ruler of Babylon, quote, I will recompense upon his own head. Ezekiel 17, verse 19. Revelation 18, verse 7 says, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she says in her heart, I sit as a queen, and am no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. Reason number 38. The phrase that she says in her heart, I am a queen and no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Isaiah says that the virgin daughter of Babylon, the whore, says, quote, I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children, end quote. But then Isaiah also says, quote, but these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in a day, the loss of children and widowhood. That's in Isaiah 47, verses 8 and 9. Revelation 18:8 says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who judged her. Reason number 39. The phrase, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, is reiterated in Isaiah, where we just read, where it says, these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, in the loss of the children and widowhood. Isaiah 47, verse 9. Reason number 40. The phrase, she shall be utterly burned with fire. Isaiah says that Babylon's astrologers, stargazers, prognosticators would be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. In Isaiah 47, verse 14. Revelation 18, verse 9. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her, and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Reason number 41. The smoke of her burning. Isaiah says that she shall be burned with fire. Isaiah 47:14. Revelation 18, verse 10. Standing afar off for fear of the torment, of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Reason number 42. That great city Babylon, that mighty city. We can refer back to our notes on Revelation 17, verse 18, which says that Isaiah calls Babylon the glory of kingdoms and the golden city, and the ruler of Babylon is called he that rules the nations. That's in Isaiah 13:19 and 14:4 and 6. Reason number 43. For in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Isaiah says of the virgin daughter of Babylon that these two things, widowhood and the loss of children and sorrow, would come to thee in a moment, in one day. Isaiah 47, verse 9. Revelation 18:11 talks about the merchants of the earth weeping and mourning over her. Then verse 18:12. Then verse 12 says, the merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all fine wood, all manner of vessels of ivory, and manner of vessels of precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble. Reason number 44. All of these things, pearls, fine linen, silk, scarlet, wood. Jerusalem did not deal in all of these items. Rome did. Revelation 18 verse 13 says, cinnamon, odors, ointments, frankincense, wine, oil, fine flour, wheat, beasts, sheep, horses, chariots, slaves, and souls of men. Reason number 45. Jerusalem did not deal in all of these items, but Rome did. Revelation 18:15. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. Reason number 46. The phrase that these people would stand far off for fear of her torment. When we compare Rome to Jerusalem, would you be able to see the burning of the temple of Jerusalem from afar off? How does the burning of the temple in Jerusalem compare to the destruction of Pompeii and Herculaneum by Mount Vesuvius, when the ash from Vesuvius covered all of southern Italy and reached across the Mediterranean, even reaching into northern Africa? Or we could even consider the Great Fire of Rome, the fire which destroyed almost all of Rome proper. That would have been a much larger fire than the fire of the Jerusalem temple. Which is more likely to be something people could see from, quote, afar off? Revelation 18 verse 17. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster, all the company in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off. Reason number 47. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. Our note on Revelation 18 verse 10 tells us that Isaiah says that these things would come to Babylon in a day. Revelation 18:18. And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Would the burning of the temple of Jerusalem actually compare to the burning of the city of Rome, or the complete and utter destruction of Pompeii and Herculaneum by Mount Vesuvius, whose ash spread all over the entire nation of Italy and down into North Africa? Reason number 49. The phrase, what city is like unto this great city? We have to ask, is Jerusalem so great that it would be compared to and rated higher than every other city on earth at the time, or even in history? Or could we do that with Rome, which actually was one of the greatest cities of all time? Jerusalem was so small and insignificant in the region. Even Alexandria was much bigger and much more important. Jerusalem was just not a city that would be compared to other cities in any regard. Reason number 50. This great city, again, our notes apply from Revelation 17 verse 18, and that is that Isaiah calls Babylon the glory of kingdoms and the golden city. This is in Isaiah 13:19 and 14:4 and 6. Revelation 18:19 says, and they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships by the sea, by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Reason 51. This phrase, for in 1 hour is she made desolate, again applies based on our notes on Revelation 18:10, where Isaiah says of the virgin daughter of Babylon that all these things would come upon her in a moment, in one day. Reason number 52. This phrase, wherein wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. Jerusalem did not have the riches nor the power for this to be said of her, nor did she have ocean access nearby. However, Rome did. It was on the ocean and had many ports up and down the shores of Italy, wherein goods could be brought in and out, and the wealth of Rome exceeded almost every other nation in history by far. Jerusalem just was not significant enough for something like this to be said about it. Revelation 18, verse 20. Rejoice over her, thou heathen, and ye apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. Reason number 53. This phrase, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, the saints and the apostles would have included the Christians, which Rome persecuted. Revelation 18, verse 21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. Reason number 54. A mighty angel took up a millstone and cast it into the sea to throw Babylon down. Jeremiah says, quote, The sea is come up upon Babylon. She is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. That's in Jeremiah 51, verse 42. Revelation 18, verse 23. And the light of a candle shall shine no more in thee at all. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were great men of earth. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Reason number 55. By thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Isaiah says of the virgin Babylon, the multitude of thy sorceries would be put down. In Isaiah 47, verse 9 and 12. And while Jerusalem had many problems with pagan worship, Rome had many, many more, worshiping all of the gods of the ancient world, including Babylon, having sorcerers and diviners, prostitutes, and everything else. Revelation 18:24, and in her was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Reason number 56. The blood of the prophets. Many people ascribe that to Jerusalem. However, the prophets were sent to Babylon, and there they were slain. And now that Babylon's principality was resident in Rome, this seems to refer to Rome. Jeremiah 29, verse 15. Reason number 57, where it says the blood of the saints and all that were slain upon the earth. Rome slew the saints. It slew the Christians by the thousands, whereas the Jews, they slew very few Christians. Reason number 58. Again, the same phrase, the blood of the prophets, the saints, and all that were slain on the land. Specifically, all that were slain on the land. Rome's wars had slain tens of thousands of peoples. Jews, Gentiles, Christians, non-Christians. Rome had been responsible for the deaths of thousands and tens of thousands. The Jews, on the other hand, they did not do this. The same cannot be said of the Jews or Jerusalem. So that's it. That's the 58 reasons that I have, and there's probably more. But I'm never going to answer this question again. I'm probably going to refer everyone to this video because there's not many more ways I can go over this stuff. I mean, as I was going through it, I thought, well, I could spend some time on this first to really flesh out, help people understand better. But I've done that. I've done it many times. And if you don't see it at this point, then there's nothing that's going to help you see it. You can continue to think it's, I don't know, most people that don't believe this is Rome, if that's the way you interpret this passage, I just think it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate. I think what it causes you to do is to think that all of history revolves around the Jews. Where it doesn't, it revolves around Christ. And I think that the realities of what happened to the nations in the time period we're talking about, and if you continue to learn from me, you're going to start to learn about what happened. Our history books have been written by the victors, so to speak. So you're simply not going to understand. You're not going to go any further in the learning process if you don't get past some of this. Because what God did in the first century did not just have to do with the Jewish nation. See, that's one of the biggest problems, I think, with the view that Rome is not Babylon and that Jerusalem is Babylon, is that it limits your focus and you don't see what God did. You don't understand all that he did in that time period. And I think that as time goes on and our learning increases, and as history starts to be revealed in the near future, that hopefully, everyone will see what the truth is. That the narrative we've been given on Rome and the things that happened in the first century and thereafter with Rome, in my humble opinion, have been hidden from us. And the histories have been not necessarily changed or deleted, but emphasis has been placed in places where emphasis should not have been placed. And that was to make Rome look better than it should have. Our God, the Most High God, in the first century, had a victory over the nations of this earth that was unspeakable and majestic and earth-shattering. And I just wish that I could communicate that to everybody so that you could see. You could really see. And I don't know how to do it. I've only been given this voice and this ability to study. It's not an easy thing to communicate everything that's in your head, and everything all at once about certain things, especially things like this that are steeped in misconception and centuries of blindness. So I'm just saying this all to say that I think it's prudent for people to really get a handle of who the whore of Babylon is and what the scriptures said about it and what God, our Father in heaven, did to Babylon. Not Jerusalem, but Babylon in the first century. God did many great things in the first century. It didn't only have to do with Jerusalem. He's much bigger than that. I hate to say that if you don't understand he's much bigger than that, then you have a lot to learn about our God. But again, I hope this clears it up. I don't know how any better to do it. Of all of the verses, I think there's about 48 verses in the two chapters we went over, Revelation 17 and 18. We found references to prophecies about Babylon and things that spoke specifically of Rome in all of the verses except for about 4. Does that tell you something? I don't know. Sorry if my demeanor is a little negative on this. I've just had to deal with this a lot, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of answering these questions. I haven't, in all of the people that have come to me and said, you're wrong, it's Jerusalem, you're wrong, it hasn't swayed me in the least because the defenses are not good. The defenses for that position are not good. You can simply go back to the verses where it says, verse 18 of chapter 18 in Revelation. What city is like unto this great city, the one that they're calling Babylon? That cannot be said of Jerusalem. If you think that that is said of Jerusalem, then you're deluding yourself. Jerusalem cannot be compared to the great cities of the earth. Even at the time, it was one of the smallest cities on the earth. Things like that, I don't understand why people can come to this passage and definitively say this is Jerusalem when you have a city pictured that is greater than any other city. A city pictured where ships come from all over the world to do business in this city. A city that when it is burning and the smoke is seen from afar off, which was not the case with Jerusalem, that the merchants weep and wail because they don't know how they're going to make a living anymore, because it was based on the wealth, the grand overarching wealth of that city. If you think that's Jerusalem, you haven't read any of the history books, and you don't know anything about first century history. So please be prudent, be diligent in studying, and understand that we just went over these 2 chapters that are all about the whore of Babylon, and almost every single verse referred to something that was Roman and to prophecies about Babylon in the Old Testament, not prophecies about Jerusalem. Thank you for your time. I hope this helps you. I don't intend to hurt anyone, but sometimes even I, as a human, get tired of answering questions. Thank you and have a good night.